Hey Web3 Curious listeners, today's sponsored episode is shot live at NFT NYC, where we met some cool pioneers in the Web3 and blockchain space. We'll jump into the importance of organic community development in the Web3 space with Bitdog and their unique approach to combining Ethereum and Bitcoin nodes for effortless NFT creation. Also, a first-hand perspective on Mona's mission to accelerate the growth of the open metaverse and how they're seeking to advance NFT standards by integrating 3D assets and AI filmmaking within the NFT space. And finally, let's dive into a unique Layer 1 solution, LAOS Network, which focuses solely on minting NFTs and seamlessly connecting EVM chains like Ethereum and Polygon without the need for bridges. All of this and more at the edge of NFT at NYC. Cue the intro.
Welcome to The Edge of NFT, the podcast that brings you the top 1% of Web3 today and what will stand the test of time. We explore the nuts and bolts of the business side and also the human element of how Web3 is changing the way we interact with the things we love. This podcast is for the dreamers, disruptors, and doers who are pumped about this ecosystem and driving where it goes next.
Hi everyone, this is Josh Krieger here with Richard Carthon, co-host of Edge of NFT. We are live in New York, at NFT New York, with some new friends and having a lot of fun here. Today we have none other than the Sandman on the show. It's great to have you on.
Likewise, thanks. Appreciate it.
So for those that don't know, he's deeply involved in the Web3 community, and his spare time has also been engaged across ETH, Bitcoin, Solana, Polygon since 2020, and he also serves as president of Crown Studio and the managing partner responsible for overall strategic direction, execution of the Bitdog 10K runes collecting mint on Bitcoin coming up. This is part of a media partnership. We're definitely excited about this one and looking forward to working together. And a little bit more context, Bitdog is sort of produced with Crown Studio, which is a really interesting collective we'll get into. And again, it's a 10K PFP runes collection we're going to break down. Good to have you on the show.
Thanks. Yeah, appreciate you.
So we started to talk about this beforehand, but you have a really interesting background in the space, and you've seen a lot of cycles. And it seems like you've really focused on finding communities that you could really connect with and be involved with deeply. Maybe you can kind of touch a little bit more on the genesis of Crown Studios and how it relates to sort of your passion in the space.
Yeah. Well, for anyone that doesn't know about the Utes community, right, it really was built around creators, right? When you think back to the Utes list and the fact that that community was effectively built for the ability for creators to come together, and it was curated for that, right? Everyone went through the application process. We literally melted the internet, right, with that whole thing. And the benefit of that was that there was just a trove of different artists, creators, entrepreneurs, people who like really all kind of believed in the same vibe.
And that was approximately...
Gosh, man, I would say probably 2 years ago, year and a half ago.
Yeah, it's like 10 years in Web3 time, but yeah.
Yeah, I know, dog years, right? But so it was very unique in that respect, right? And then the second piece of it that we realized, and so Crown Studio was founded about 2 years ago, right? And it started off just as people who were kind of trying to create a DAO, if you will, around a trade, right? And it was like, oh, we all have crowns and, you know, whatever. It quickly evolved, though. And so as things started to evolve, we started to have more and more artists join, started to have more and more business people. There's a person who was a Harvard-trained doctor and cancer researcher, right? We have somebody that is a founder of an animation studio. I myself have been in the industry for a very long time, since 2012. A couple people who are in different marketing capacities. And so we looked around the room and we realized we had quite a bit of talent. And so we also realized that there's a big contingent of people in Web3 that maybe aren't here to go trade, right? They're not professional traders. They don't know how to do the technical analysis. They don't, there's got to be other ways to like grow and make money in Web3 that doesn't necessarily require like flipping bags.
Oh, definitely. And I mean, being here at NFT NYC, we're here with those communities, whether they're here, I mean, not just for the flipping the bags, but for the communities. We've gone to several side events with several huge communities that have been built throughout the years, and some are OG, some are new to the game, but
there are a lot of different people from different backgrounds from all over the world and country. And so like having launched Utes and having that type of experience, now you're here with Bitdog. Like, why are you choosing this moment now to enter the ordinal space and enter into Bitcoin and to go this route and start this project?
Yeah. Well, I mean, as soon as I learned about the Bitcoin ordinal space and it started evolving, which is still very, very young, but I guess the number one reason for me personally was it really gave me old school Ethereum vibes. Like it's the wild, wild west. Everyone is building, very bespoke parts of the ecosystem. It's very immature and raw in terms of the technology capabilities compared to Ethereum, certainly, and Solana. And everyone's really building kind of in parallel towards something, but it's kind of hard, right? Because you don't know exactly what you're building towards or how you're going to configure with something else, some other product or app that somebody built. And so through that, to me, technology very much becomes art more so than just a science, right? Or something like that. And I think that's kind of the ethos of what you see within Bitcoin, right? The communities are thriving and people are there for the art and for the communities, which was kind of the way it used to be on Ethereum before everyone started like all the farming and, flipping JPEGs and all that. And so you kind of have that vibe there on Bitcoin and just like this open landscape of places to go build. And so when Crown Studio, who has a lot of crossover with the old OXBT community, there's a lot of community members that were in both. And so we realized as Runes were starting to launch out that there was going to be a real opportunity here. And we kind of, like I said, really figured out how to put together a game plan around, first and foremost, having a great IP and something that people were really going to attach to. And because it always starts with that, right? We're benefited from having a large community to begin with. So there's about 15,000 wallets existing with the old BRC20s of OXBT, right? And that also extends through to the folks in the Utes and DGOS community from Crown Studio and all of that. So it's a pretty good cross-chain of community members that are coming in.
Yeah, one quick distinction I want to make because I think it's really important, especially for a lot of our newer listeners that are getting into ordinals. When he says runes, that's basically just saying like a token on top of Bitcoin.
That's right. Yeah, no, it's essentially an altcoin, right? Just like you would see a different meme coin on ERC20, or you see all the the meme coins on Solana, right? The SPL tokens. Bitcoin has not had that to date, right? That's really what BRC20s were, but from a functional standpoint, I would say the user experience wasn't the same, certainly, right?
So, I can relate a lot to your background in the sense that I come from, corporate culture. I've worked across a number of different industries, including food tech. And I think one thing that's interesting about all this and what excites you is some people may see some contrast. I mean, you worked with Mercedes-Benz and AT&T in Disney, and HR Block, right? These are big brands with fairly particular and pristine, brand reputations in where IP has like a long life, probably way before you joined, you got in the boat to help them, right? They had my assumption here, correct me if I'm wrong, is what excites you about this space is the chance to leverage what you've learned about longevity in IP and to create new IP from the ground up at this moment in time based on everything you did know with some fun new technology. Is that fair to say?
It is, yeah. And I would say the biggest difference that I've noticed between Web 2 and Web 3 is the organic community development. And I think that really is the sauce. And, you deal with these large brands that spend, tens of millions of dollars to get audiences and traffic and viewers and all of that. But like, how authentic is it, right? And are those your super users, right? Your power fans, if you will. And then you shift that lens over to Web3, and these startups, they didn't have tens of millions of dollars for marketing budgets, right? So they had to be gritty. They had to find out how to drive virality and social content. They had to go out and really drive organic connections and mobilize communities to be evangelists, right? Which is marketing power. right? And the statistics will show you that, programmatic or paid media, the conversion rates are going down year over year over year because we're all being inundated with ads, right, at the end of the day. And more importantly, because we're inundated, even if you give me a discount, let's say you find a $10 discount on a browser somewhere, right, for a hotel, I'm probably not going to click it. But if you said, yo, go stay at this hotel because I love this place and I had an awesome time there, I'll book it. I don't even care what the price is, right? And so people are more likely to engage with and probably make buying decisions based on what their friends or peers are doing, right? And that capability, I think, comes out more so in organic-based content and media, especially with user-generated content.
Okay, so circling full circle here back to this project, Bitdogs, which is essentially, there's a meme element to it, right? We've been talking a lot on the show this week about, the trend towards meme culture in our space. It seems like it's the only thing that we can't escape right now. It's all over Twitter. There's a lot of multi-dimensionality to what's happening in the space and gaming in the metaverse and infrastructure. It seems like it's been sort of covered up. At the same time, there's some depth to Bitdogs in what you guys are trying to achieve here that's sort of built on this meme culture. And I think this is an opportunity for us to explain to everyone what's really going on with this meme mania. So maybe you can kind of unpack it for us and like how you're looking at the broader meme culture and how you're looking at this project and how it might be distinctive from some of those broader trends.
Yeah. Well, I mean, certainly right now, meme culture and meme coins are all the meta, right? I mean, the last several months, that's really been most of where the market activity has been. I think people like those sorts of cultures because they're fun at the end of the day, right? It's not like super crazy expectations or roadmaps or anything like that. It's mostly about brands and IPs, right? And story at the end of the day. And I think that's what people are connecting to is, it's kind of rooted in different elements of humor or of cultural connection within the Web3 community. And that's what people really mobilize around, right? And so I think the best elements of meme culture are really rooted in IP and in storyline. And that's really where we think Bitdogs is really going to shine. Some of the folks that work at the Crown Studio actually work in Hollywood building movies for large animation studios, including writing all the the storylines, all the scripting and all of that. And so Bitdogs actually has a full storyline written, and all the content that everyone will start to see will start to play this out. It's actually Satoshi's dog, and they kind of come through a vortex, and Bitdog loves to dig in the grass in the yard. And when he starts digging in the yard, out comes a couple of runes, right? And those runes are the token. And so the next vector of that, when you start to think about what historically has been really cool about meme coins, we said it's story and IP. What it didn't have was identity, right? The old versions of the coins, you just had a logo of the coin. How are you going to PFP that? You're not, right? Well, now you have that personal connection because you not only have the coins, but you have a PFP and some badass art, right, that you can really go out there and represent. And so at the end of the day, we think that's going to take advantage of what's really good about meme culture, right, which is the story and the IP, but have more of a personalized identity.
And I like the lore of it, right? Like you said, people get behind a story, they get behind a community, and they get behind different ways that they can interact and be part of ultimately what's being created. And you talked about it earlier, and I got to bring it back. The team that you have has a lot of experience in being able to cover not just amazing art, which you shared some with us, which sick. Can't wait to share some of this with y'all. It looks absolutely incredible. It's fire, bro. And I'm excited to share some of that. But being able to have that amazing art, being able to put this story and lore together and then tie it all in together between the ordinal piece and the token piece and like having it all fluidly come together. Like, talk to us about like how has this journey been for your team to kind of compile this together? And of course, you have some pretty big things happening pretty soon with all of this. So tease that up a little bit.
Yeah, the journey. It's been a learning process for sure, right? Anytime you're doing a community-based project, it's really exciting because there's a lot of people who have a lot of really cool talents. Maybe they've never had an opportunity to be involved in a project launch. So people are donating their time literally for free, like to launch this. So that's really cool. The learning side of it is, just finding the right level of organization, right? And who actually makes decisions for things. Because you talk about DAOs and, okay, we're all going to sit around and vote and do all these things. At the end of the day, it's not efficient. And
No, I mean, when you're doing a project, you're having to make like decisions every 6 seconds.
that's right, exactly. And so you can't like, okay, well, let's take a vote on this one, right? But you almost have to self-elect those. You have to create roles. You have to say, okay, you're project manager, you're the editor, you're the artist, you're the content strategist, the marketer, and so you have to really identify those, and you have to build structure around it. And that was probably the biggest opportunity that we had when we first started through it.
And how long ago was that?
Gosh, well, for Crown Studio, it started like 2 years ago.
Okay, so you've
for
gone through the growing pains,
Yeah.
but for this project, when
we started working on this, I'd say about 3 months ago.
Nice.
Yeah, so, and that's really a combination of about close to 30 people, about 10 to 15 from Crown Studio, and the balance from the Bitdogs community. And, again, all different talents and backgrounds and all of that. And so it's about a 30-person team that's kind of banded together. And otherwise, it's very similar to any, like, legit launch you would see in, like, a traditional Web2 campaign launch, right?
And can you speak to any other aspects of like the composition of the Bitdogs community that you came together with? Like, what's the background of this group? What connected you to decide to do this project with them?
Yeah. So myself, I was involved with previously the OXBT BRC20 community, like pretty much from Mint. And a lot of the folks that are involved in this have been, right? And that was a really cool project. It was actually one of the first out there that did that on BRC20s. So it's kind of the OG, if you will, with BRC20s. And there's a lot, as I mentioned, a lot of crossover of people within different communities across Ethereum and Solana. And so the goal for Bitdogs really is, how do we start to introduce opportunities for people outside of the Bitcoin ecosystem to have a good price point and come in and start experiencing these things called runes and ordinals and all these things, right? Because we've all seen those collections that are more dominant in the space now, and they're exploding, right? And there are a lot of people, I think, that got sidelined. They didn't know about it, or they got priced out and they became way too expensive. And they're really just waiting for that opportunity, in our view, to have something that's got really cool art, a good price point, and something that kind of strives onto this whole narrative with runes, which, if you look within the Bitcoin ecosystem, the next 6 months are going to be all about runes. Really, it hasn't even launched yet. So,
right, we've got the Havoning, and Casey Rodmore was here at NFT New York, which was really interesting to see him on stage. And at all the after parties, it's just like, I'd say 50% of the audience is Ordinals fans. I mean, certainly it's a whole different vibe than just a year ago. We're really excited about this project. Is there anything else on the roadmap that we didn't touch on that you just wanted to mention?
I think as we start to roll out the Bitdog brand and IP, you'll continue to see a lot of story develop out of Bitdog, right? So we've kind of laid the groundwork for that now, right? From a rune standpoint, there's still a lot of unknowns exactly how that ecosystem and marketplace is really going to unfold. But what we do know is that we crush it on IP. We have some of the best artists and creators in the space. And so if we just stay really connected to what we're best at, which is content, IP, and really building good communities, especially communities from different chains all together, that it's going to be successful, right? So it's kind of one of those, just focus on what you can control and, let everything else, be what it is. So we're super confident in it. I think the art's going to speak for itself. Maybe I'm biased, but I think it'll be top 5 art out there on Bitcoin.
Hey, it really looks that good. So like, I don't think that's too bold of a statement, but so people are listening to this, they're excited. They're like, oh my gosh, like I want to be a part of this community. Where are places that people can go and learn more?
Yeah, so check out Bitdog's Twitter for sure. We've got some content on Crowns Club Studio as well on our Twitter page. And yeah, just make sure you put noties on, man. April 17th. So it's just about 2 weeks away.
Awesome. And, you know, we always like to give a moment for shout outs, right? There's a lot of work that goes into making this happen. And a lot of people, like you said, that have spent time without necessarily getting paid. So, like, this is a moment for you to be able to shout out and give some kudos to people.
I wish I should have wrote down a list before. There's so many of them. But, of course, everyone Crown Studios. So it starts with AGZ. Like, she's the artist behind this. This is really her coming out party in a way. She's one of my favorite humans. And she put her heart and soul into this collection. Pale Horse, Twix, Coob, Els Cadet, Van Gogh, man, the list goes on. Chef, pretty much everyone. Chef, Kenny, those guys all do a great job really building the Crowns community and the DGods community. So that's going to be a big part of the folks that we obviously want to bring in, amongst others. And then over on the Bitdog side, of course, Skittles is the president over there. Bonds, Loco. Gosh, I'm missing so many here. I'm going to feel bad, but sorry if I miss you guys. There's a whole
and everyone else,
man. Dude, I'm telling you, there's like literally over 30 people.
We just want to put you in the spot, see if you can name all your name them all.
One thing, you just give me a list, whatever, head down. But
No, I'm sure everyone on the team has sort of contributed here, and looking forward to the drop. So thanks for hanging out with us today, and excited to sort of see how all this unfolds, and appreciate your perspective in the industry. So thanks for hanging out.
Yeah, anytime. Appreciate you having me. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.
All right, everyone. It's now time for Edge Quick Hitters. Edge Quick Hitters is a fun, quick way to get to know our guests better. And there's 10 questions. We're looking for just a short or single few-word response, but feel free to expand if you get the urge. How about that? Sandman, you up for it?
I'm with it.
All right, man. What's the first thing you remember ever purchasing in your life?
First thing I remember purchasing, a yo-yo.
I had one of those.
Yo-yo King.
You were able to do all the tricks and everything?
When I was younger, yeah. But they didn't have the fancy yo-yos that they do now. Yeah.
Now it's cheating. It's like yo-yos on training wheels.
I know, right?
And what's the first thing you remember ever selling in your life?
A Ghostbusters figurine toy. Yeah. And I was heartbroken by it because I didn't want to sell it, but I got a good offer.
Oh, man, that's tough. Well,
Paper-handed it.
Paper-handed it. That'd have been a really cool collectible, especially now that Ghostbusters is coming back around. They got the new movie out. So.
Yeah.
Man.
A collectible is probably worth something now, too.
Definitely. So if you could buy anything in the world, and we're talking like digital, physical, service, experience, that's currently for sale, what would you buy?
What would I buy? I'd probably buy a JPEG, and I'd probably buy an OMB.
Okay. Both of those are solid. If you could pass on any of your personality traits to the next generation, what would it be?
I would say, that's a hard one. I don't know how many I'd want to pass on. But no, I would say focusing on inputs rather than outputs. Yeah. I think a lot of people focus a little too much on outcomes and get distracted through the process. So.
Yeah, I really vibe with that answer, man. Now, on the flip side of that, if you could eliminate one of your personality traits for the next generation, what would it be?
See, that one's got a lot of lists. But, I would say my detail orientation. I'm not the most detailed guy. I'm more of a big picture idea guy. So.
All right. Well, that was fun. And we always like to sort of end with a bonus question when we do this. And there's a little bit of a theme to this episode. So the bonus question for you is, who is your favorite superhero of all time?
Oh, it's easy.
And why?
Wolverine.
Yes.
He's just an absolute G. And, no way you can take him down. You thought you took him down. He gets back up. And
you kind of have that, Wolverine-esque vibe and, voice, too. It's a little gruff, but, everything that comes out of Wolverine's mouth, you take very seriously,
yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah. Well, low-key, I actually am Wolverine.
Okay. So, fact. There you have it. Edge Quick Hitters.
And now for a quick word from our sponsor before we dive into the next segment. Are you ready to take your sports predictions to the next level? Look no further than maincard.io, the fantasy management platform that's taking the blockchain world by storm. With MainCard, every card is a ticket to excitement. You can predict sport outcomes, trade cards in the marketplace, and challenge opponents in thrilling weekly duels. And don't wait. Head to maincard.io now and start earning rewards with your NFTs because it pays to be early. And now back to today's episode.
Hi everyone, Josh Krieger here, co-host of Edge NFT, live at NFT New York. I'm here today with Justin Melillo, who's the CEO and co-founder of Mona. We've talked on Twitter Spaces and caught up on the show, but it's been a minute. Good to have you back on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah, so for those that don't know, Justin's the CEO and co-founder of Mona, which is a 3D creator economy for the Metaverse. And in his previous roles at Magic Leap and DreamWorks Animation, he helped build the world's first AR digital human AI and volumetric capture experience with the Royal Shakespeare Company. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was a crazy time. Yep.
And you've also sort of worked with a number of different household musicians, such as Lizzo, Pearl Jam, Cardi B.
Yeah, designing AR lens experiences for social platforms like Snapchat, Instagram. Yeah, those are a lot of fun too.
Nice. I just had dinner the other day with someone that helped get Cardi B over to a bar mitzvah party.
Really?
And she had a great time, apparently.
That sounds a story. We should do a show. I want to hear about that.
Yeah.
That sounds really interesting.
I wish I was there, but she was enjoying herself, apparently. So, but you guys have been really busy building, so I'd love to better understand what's going on with this idea of the open metaverse. Where are we at now?
Let's talk about it. Yeah. Well, at Mona, our mission is really to accelerate the growth of the open metaverse. I think, we hear about this concept of interoperability. We hear about the metaverse. The reality is that many platforms today across gaming, there are these walled gardens. Developers benefit from keeping, their own closed economies, keeping users in their own ecosystems. But I think when you talk to users and when you talk to developers, everyone gets really, really excited about the concept of being able to bring your asset from one game or one platform or experience to another. And so at Mona, we are dedicated to actually building that and actually making it happen. So getting a lot of platforms bought in on this idea, building a lot of first-party content in collaboration with communities, and also hosting many build-a-thons, game jams, where developers can essentially use our SDK, leverage different layers of composability across our stack so that players can take avatars they own, wearables, environments, spaces, use them not only in Mona, but they can also use them across other platforms and other games, and in a way that adds value to everyone in the network.
Cool. So let me try to unpack this a little bit, because we've had WeMade on the show, we've had Comp to Us on the show, we work with Gala Games. Are these gaming companies, not to throw anyone under the bus, are they open to this idea? Is this something that's welcomed by the community?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I was just at GDC a couple of weeks ago. Actually stopped by Avalanche's booth. They had a massive gaming booth there, if you were there. And I chatted with so many developers there, and they were talking about their game and the avatars you could buy and the power-ups. And I asked, well, can I actually use this somewhere else? And they said, well, you can. It's on blockchain. And I said, okay, but there's no way for me to actually do it. And he's like, no. And I was like, well, if there was a way, would you be interested? And he flat out said, yeah. He was really excited for it. There's just no way to do that now. And so we're really excited to be solving this issue.
So is this sort of like having a credit card that lets you sort of convert miles to different denominations? Is your gun in one sort of metaverse going to be worth the same amount of value as it is in another? How do you deal with those types of wrinkles?
Yeah, it's a really good question. There are different layers to it. I think there's the technical layer, and then there's the layer of the economy and who benefits and what the financial incentive is like.
Right.
The technical layer, the good news is this problem is for the most part solved. There are many standards that are built around this notion of interoperability. If you've heard of GLBs, it's a 3D file type. It's basically like the 3D
What does it stand for?
JPEG. GLB, it is, actually I have to get back to you on that.
Okay, good. I'm not the only one that doesn't know that.
No,
right,
but
cool.
it's basically like the JPEG of 3D.
Cool.
And what that means is essentially you can render a GLB in JavaScript in 3JS, you can render it in a game engine like Unity, Unreal, and it'll for the most part look the same. So there are these standards around 3D assets, but there are a couple other issues that kind of make it difficult to integrate, which we're working on and which we solve with the SDK. But to your point in your example, it is kind of like the notion of I have this gun in one game and it performed a certain function. The developer of another game can actually have the authority to say what kind of function it performs there. And it could be very similar to the first game, or it could be entirely new.
Like in one game, it could be like rubber bullets, and the other, it's shooting bubbles.
Bubbles. That literally was my thought. I think you were in my head, because I literally thought of a bubble gun.
I was like, that'd be fun, right?
Yeah.
Like, I have this like crazy gun, and then I'm playing some more like
Exactly.
kids adventure fantasy game, and that's really interesting to think about.
What's great, though, is that also to your point of how value accrues to the object. Today value accrues around an object based on your achievements in a game, you could say, right?
Yeah.
But now what's going to be great is that those achievements will carry with you through ownership of the asset. And so it'll become even more valuable when you bring it over to the next game, and those achievements carry over as well. So what we're really working to do is make an additive and win-win system of value for everyone in this network that owns all these assets.
Oh yeah, I just came up with this idea that I have to say on the air because it's too amusing to not share, at least to myself. Which is like, you could have a sort of gun for toys drive on some game in another metaverse where you get someone to donate all their like guns and convert it into toys in another game.
Oh my
right?
gosh, yeah.
I mean, there's
I love
something
that.
there.
There's definitely something there. We should build that. I love that idea.
All right. Well, anyways, you can steal that one. But it is,
All right,
it is on the record, and we should mint this moment
Yeah.
to make
We'll,
sure
we'll,
everyone knows.
we'll make sure you get the royalties on that one.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. So there's also this other sort of aspect of the metaverse, which is sort of spatial computing. And of course, we've been talking a lot about the Apple Vision Pro app. It's pretty exciting. How does that relate to what you guys are up to?
So we firmly believe that the future of the internet is going to be immersive. I think when we think about the metaverse, many people think about this image of Ready Player One, of all of us being fully immersed with avatars in games. That's definitely a part of it. Basically, where spatial computing comes in is that next evolution of that. So you have virtual reality. You've probably heard of augmented reality, extended reality, mixed reality, all the realities. Basically, spatial computing comes into play. It was actually a term that we were using at Magic Leap. And now Apple is also using the term, and it's a new take on the idea of augmented or virtual reality. I think they call it spatial computing really because it's a new way for us to not only interact with content, but interact with computers, with operating systems. It's a more spatial context. If you've tried the Apple Vision Pro, you'll see the user experience is based off of your eye tracking and a simple hand gesture of a pinch instead of like a click on your laptop or a tap on your iPad. And how this is going to come into play is basically, if we look 10, 20 years into the future, these devices are going to come to replace all of our phones, all of our tablets, essentially all of our screens and computers eventually. And we as humans are going to be able to interact with content in a way that is much more conducive to how we interact with the world around us. We live in a 3D world. So we're really excited for spatial computing, very excited for the Apple Vision Pro, and soon Mona's going to have an app where I believe it'll be one of the first apps, if not the first, where you can actually interact with digital assets in your wallet in a new way, pulling them into the world around you and starting to play and share them.
Okay, so we just had a show earlier with this really cool new Web3 superhero NFT project, and we talked about Sora and the ability to these heroes to then enter into movies. So I am kind of curious as we talk about these objects and how they can interact. Is there an element of AI filmmaking and sort of interaction that's possible here that is sort of that Mona can help facilitate?
Yeah, I love that. Absolutely. I think with AI, there are a number of implications there. For example, like you could program an AI and, give it to an avatar and have it perform a certain behavior or task or, actually learn more about, what they're doing, interacting with different players. There's so much potential here. Imagine bringing an avatar into your real world, giving it an AI brain, and then it, performs that behavior or function and starts learning about the world around you as well. And you can interact with it in a way that feels very real. It kind of reminds me of the project that you alluded to earlier when I was at Magic Leap of Micah, this digital human. that was just standing right in front of you as though, she were actually there. And it was all driven by AI. So very similar concept.
Very cool. So excited about all of this to come and great to catch up. I guess there's something going on now that you guys are promoting a new Mona claim that people can take advantage of.
Yeah, absolutely. So with spatial computing, with us entering this realm of 3D, I think it's a very exciting time when you think about 3D collectibles, 3D assets, and 3D NFTs. There are a number of really fantastic artists, creators, and communities that have launched already 3D objects that exist on Ethereum, Polygon, a number of different chains. But what we're realizing is that if you compare the amount of 3D assets to the amount of 2D assets or, moving images that are on chain, it just pales in comparison. So we're really excited as a platform to elevate 3D creators, 3D artists, game designers specifically. And through the Mona Claim program, every week we're going to be highlighting a different artist. And so anyone can come to the site. They're going to be limited edition, but you can actually have a chance to claim a free 3D NFT all through Metaverse.com and start filling your wallet with these incredible 3D works of art that you can then use across the Mona ecosystem.
What are some of the artists that you'll be featuring?
So we just launched this, and we're going to have some, posts that are going to go out about the artists that are in the queue. I can't say too much about it now, but if you go to Monaverse.com now, we're first featuring Augie Worlds, who is a veteran VR artist. He's been in the NFT space for a number of years and is just one of the most incredible 3D creators.
Cool. A lot of fun to give all these folks a platform to showcase their art and do that type of collaboration. Anything we didn't cover that you just wanted to mention before we jet?
I think we covered a lot. Thank you so
much.
No,
I mean, we definitely covered a lot.
Yeah, you can find us at a number of upcoming conferences, like Consensus and NFC Lisbon. But yeah, otherwise we have the call out for anyone who wants to help build the open metaverse. We're looking for developers to join us, 3D artists who want to build with us as well. So come find us at monaverse.com or on Twitter at Monaverse.
Cool. And what's your Twitter handle?
Mine is Justin M. Melillo, Melillo on Twitter. And
Awesome.
Monaverse is at Monaverse.
All right. Well, thanks for coming by, Justin.
Cool. Thank you so much, Josh. Appreciate it.
A quick word from our sponsors who's ready to navigate the cutting edge of tomorrow's legal landscape. Because at Zuber Lawler, they're not just attorneys, they're visionaries. With expertise in emerging technologies like AI, blockchain, and the metaverse, they're paving the way for you to seize the future. For mergers and acquisitions to IP, their selective team delivers strategic solutions tailored to the ever-changing world of technology. Join us at Zuber Lawler, where the future meets the law at zuberlawler.com. Back to the episode.
All right, this is Richard Carthon. We're live here at NFT NYC, and I'm here speaking with Dr. Alun Evans with LAOS Network. I'm really excited to have you here. He's the CEO and founder of Freeverse.io and the co-founder of LAOS Network. He is a visionary in the tech and blockchain spaces with over 2 decades of experience with his work at Shard.io, BodyPal.com, and most notably, Barcelona World Race, where he pioneered the first video game allowing real-time competition in simultaneous real-world sporting event. Meanwhile, LAOS Network is revolutionizing the NFT landscape with its seamless integration for minting and deploying vast numbers of assets across blockchain networks like Ethereum and Polygon, minus the gas fees and congestion woes. This approach not only simplifies asset minting for creators, but also enriches player engagement through tradable dynamic assets like platforms like OpenSea. So let's go ahead and jump in. So again, very great to have you here. Hopefully you've been having a great experience so far. So from collaborative 3D content creation to online retail and fashion, online gaming and beyond, you've been super busy in your career. And, you could have gone in a lot of directions. Like, what brought you to Web3?
Yeah. So interestingly, about 5 years ago, my co-founder, one of the 4 co-founders of Freeverse and now LAOS Network, and a good friend of mine, Tony, he called me. And I'd worked with Tony 15 years ago, and Tony is a man with 30 patents to his name.
Wow.
He co-invented the technology which is now known as Dolby Atmos in cinemas. He won an Oscar for it just this year, a few weeks ago.
Wow.
And so when the man calls you and he says you've got a good idea, you tend to listen to it, right?
Yeah.
And at the time, I knew nothing about blockchain, but he'd fallen in love with it, and he came to me and explained that he had the vision. Wouldn't it be cool, he said, if you could have, you playing a video game, and you could you sell the thing in your video game. You'd spend hours building up your magic sword or your player in your football game or whatever it is, and you could sell that to somebody else for real money rather than just in-game content. I thought, well, that would be cool because it'd be more fair. As a gamer, you'd spend so much time building up this and leveling up your character or whatever it is, and then to throw it all away and someone might buy it from you. I thought that sounded really interesting, and so I dug into it, and I also fell in love with the blockchain. So here we are.
Man, that is full circle, and yeah, you take that call. You don't hang up on that. You take that every time, and with that recommendation, you are now in this space, and you're building it. You're talking about it, and one of the things that you brought up and is a challenge within the blockchain space is as these assets are being created, having a seamless experience from integrating digital assets across multiple blockchains, or being able to do exactly what you said by you did all this work, you got this really awesome asset, and now you want to either move it somewhere else or sell it or whatever it is. Like, how is LAOS going about making that seamless?
So one of the things that we've noticed that even in the the bear market over the last few years, if you look at Ethereum and its various layer 2s, the polygons and the optimism, the arbitrums and so on, around about 20% of the transactions on Ethereum are minting transactions. So people minting NFTs, right? Which is great. And minting an NFT on Ethereum is expensive, right? It costs a lot of money. And so one of the things that we thought that was sort of holding things back in many spaces, right? It's holding back people who want to create digital collectibles and create really cool collections and artwork because it's expensive to mint those NFTs. It's holding back the deployment of tradable assets in games because if you've got 100,000 gamers, which is not a lot in a game, you're not going to gift them all an NFT if you're having to pay them a lot of money to mint that, even if it's on Polygon, which is much cheaper. And also in things like real-world assets, I mean, people are now tokenizing things like mortgages and like real estate, but they're not tokenizing things like invoices or even they're trying to tokenize gold, but even that's expensive because how many gold bars are there in the world, right? So it gets expensive to mint at scale. And so what we wanted to do, and we've always wanted to do, is create a way where it's manageable and viable to mint at scale whilst keeping the actual ownership of those assets in the mature ecosystems such as Ethereum or now Polygon or its layer 2s or Ethereum's layer 2s. And so what we've done with LAOS is exactly that. It's a new layer 1. It does nothing else apart from mint assets. That's the only thing it does. You can't deploy smart contracts on there. You can't trade assets on there. You can't do any DeFi on there. It just mints NFTs. That's the only thing it does. And what it does is, thanks to some clever technology that's part of the Polkadot ecosystem, is that it connects without bridges to any EVM chain. So the actual ownership of the assets and the trading of the assets happens on Ethereum or Polygon or Base or wherever it is, but the properties of the assets are stored in a consensus system on LAOS. And what that means is that you can mint a regular ERC-721. It appears in OpenSea or Rarible, wherever it is. It's tradable there. But instead of paying ETH to mint that asset, you've paid 0.00007 of a LAOS token to do so, which is very, very cheap.
Yeah, wow. So breaking a lot of this down, when you talk about like truly making something very niche and very focused, this is very focused, right?
100%.
Minting.
100%.
And because you're building on Dot, which I'm a fan myself of Polkadot and what they have going on, and for all those listening right now, he has a Polkadot shirt on just to show it, and there's a lot of great things that they're helping to build, but making it to where it's bridgeless and it's just happening synergistically across all these platforms is very powerful. And you brought up the technology piece, and it brings up a question I want to ask you, because recently your CTO published an article on bridgelessly connecting other platforms, which is, again, a really interesting concept. You kind of broke that down for us. What is that core concept like? That's your layer 1, like not really needing a layer 2 because of this seamless bridging.
So one of the problems with connecting blockchains is bridges, right? And so if you want to connect one blockchain to another, usually you have to build a bridge. And bridges have problems in that they're very well documented problems of security and trust and so on and so forth. And there's lots of great work which has gone into building those things. What Polkadot have worked with over the last few years is the idea of cross-chain messaging. So the idea that one of the parachains of Polkadot can refer to another one via a agreed-upon standard. And what they're doing now with the third version of the XEM, the cross-chain messaging, is they're creating this thing called universal location. So the idea is that rather than having just a system for parachains within the Polkadot system to refer to each other, they're actually proposing it as a system that all different consensus systems can refer to each other and refer to specific locations. So, for example, you can think of it, an analogy might be, when you type into a web browser, you put in the URL of the server you want to go to, and that breaks down to some numbers which goes to a particular machine in a particular place in the world. And so the idea of universal location for consensus systems is you say, well, for example, slash Ethereum slash smart contract number slash asset ID, and that might be a generic universal location for a specific NFT. And so we're harnessing that to link Ethereum and its other and all the other EVM chains to the Polkadot ecosystem in that way. So that's the kind of the way we're using it.
And I think that is a very great strategy on like how to approach this challenge of bridges. As you said, some of the biggest hacks that have been out there have been through bridges. And especially in the world of NFTs and like how a lot of this comes together, people are always looking for vulnerabilities and people have had experiences with batmits or people coming in and like kind of disrupting how everything goes. And y'all are taking a lot of approaches to go away with a lot of these challenges. And so another thing that y'all have going that I think is really unique is the universal node, which is a pivotal innovation that is unique to LAOS. So can you kind of just explain this a little bit more and how does it apply to your ecosystem?
Yeah, I mean, so you can, if you want to mint, let's say you want to mint an NFT on Ethereum tomorrow with LAOS. It's very straightforward. You connect to an Ethereum node, you connect to a LAOS node. You do have to deploy a smart contract on Ethereum, right, once, and that smart contract points to LAOS, right, if you like. But you do have to connect to two nodes, an Ethereum node and a LAOS node, which is fine, right? But wouldn't it be cool if you could connect to one? So what we're building at the moment as well is a single node, we call it universal node, which combines a regular EVM node, which you can connect to Ethereum or Polygon or Optimism or wherever, and also a LAOS node built into it. So that means that you're kind of like combining the two things to make it even easier for developers to build. So rather than having to deploy here and deploy there and then connect the two things, it's just like a one single call, create a new NFT on Ethereum, but actually behind the scenes it's doing it with LAOS. You're paying with LAOS tokens, of course, but the NFT appears as a regular ERC-721. You can import it into your MetaMask, you can trade it on OpenSea, and it's all easier for the developer to use, basically.
I love it. Simplification, making things cheaper, making it safer, those are the types of things that innovations that are going to keep pushing NFT adoption and making things happen at a faster rate. And speaking of, you are a speaker here at NFT NYC, and yesterday you were on a panel with Bally's and Metacourt and Superfast Games on interoperability, which is kind of in the theme of today's conversation. So Web3 gaming is a huge part of the space, and for our listeners that couldn't make it out here, can you kind of just give us an overview of like what was discussed in that conversation?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I'm particularly interested in is how can you take an asset from one game and use it in a different game, right? And it's kind of like a pipe dream for many gamers, right? Like my daughter plays Minecraft, she wants to take something out and use it in Roblox, right? And I try to explain to her, you can't do that, right? Well, why can't you do it? And you can't do it because they're different games, they have different IPs, they have different art pipelines, they have different, tech developments, they're building different engines. It's just not possible. But if you have this concept of and the biggest blocks at part of me is that how can I prove that I own something in one game and another game, right? And because those two games are not going to share their database access, right? So they're not going to, they're not going to say, "Oh, do you know Alun Evans?" "No, I don't," or whatever. They're not going to do that unless they come to some sort of high-level agreement. And of course, with the blockchain, we solve that problem, right? And so you solve this idea of who can own it. Now, you still have these major problems of art and development and so on. But one of the things that LAOS does, which we're not pushing so hard at the moment, but it does do, it allows you to extend the metadata of any NFT out there already. So say you have an NFT for a sword in a game. You can be another game, and without asking anyone's permission, you can just add metadata to that NFT and say, okay, with that sword, now in my game, it has power 10 or experience 100 or whatever it is. And then you can create your own artwork for that sword, whatever it is. So if that user comes into your game, they can demonstrate they're the owner of that sword. They can use it in a different way with a different art style, a different IP, and different everything else in that game. And so I'm really interested in that. I think there's a long way to go on that. So we're kind of not pushing it as a big thing of LAOS right now, though it's possible. But I'm really fascinated. I hope that we get to that stage in the future whereby, as a gamer, I would love to be able to take my hero from, Baldur's Gate 3, which I'm currently right into, and take it into, Dragon's Dogma 2, which is coming out next week, or it's just come out now. And I'd love to be able to do that, but you can't do it yet, so...
I love that you're building it, and I love that you're having that conversation because it's something that I've always thought about myself. Just with some of these RPG games and giant world games, you spend so much time creating your set, right?
I'm 110 hours into Baldur's Gate 3 now so far. It's just
And it just like, I have this really awesome thing, and like, what if I could just start bringing it somewhere else? And even if it doesn't come with all the power, it at least has like maybe some of these special like features that you can then like keep like adding on to it, and like eventually you have this like super sword that goes across like all these different games, and like somebody's gonna want that, right? And so like that part is like super cool, super critical, and I think is like something that is very much worth like creating. And I'm glad that y'all are going down that path. And so for right now, for game developers that are kind of interested in exploring the potential of fully on-chain games and these cross-platform NFTs, like what would you encourage them to do, and like how can they either be part of LAOS or how can they start to like dive deeper in building this type of future?
So I think there's a couple of messages there. One is that I still think that we're figuring out the best way of running a player-driven economy in a game. I think we've all kind of agreed now that we're beginning to agree that blockchain games or Web3 games are not a thing, but blockchain in games and Web3 in games is a viable thing, and it is something that I think the gamers will want when it's presented to them in a fair way that's beneficial for them, and rather than clearly being some sort of like speculative thing, right? That was the negative feedback. So if I were a game developer, what we say to the game developers who are building on LAOS at the moment is think about how a player-driven economy is going to work within your game, and also think about how if you have this idea of it doesn't actually cost me any money to mint NFTs, right? And they're dynamic NFTs that can be upgraded based on what the gamer does. So if you have 100,000 players or 1 million players, then you can gift them all an NFT for free, right? And therefore it's worthless. That NFT is literally worthless. It has no value, right? But then the player can upgrade that NFT by how they use it, by how many monsters they kill, how many races they finish, or so on and so forth. And so the value of that asset to somebody else becomes based on how it's being used rather than just simply how rare it is. And I think if game developers go in that direction, I think we're going to create something that will be of genuine value to the players, and I think it will see much wider adoption.
By far. And also I think you're creating a new economy that a lot of people that are in this space, especially whether you're in esports or not, you're just a hardcore gamer, it's something that will open up the doors for so many current generation, next generation players to go and experience that. So as we kind of wrap up here, like you're looking at LAOS, you recently just had your auction on Polkadot, and you have a lot of other exciting things, I'm sure, on the horizon. Like what's next?
Yeah, the next thing is to get as many builders building stuff on LAOS as possible. We're going to be running hackathons. We're really interested in exploring the real-world asset space as well, and partnering with people that are beyond gaming. How can we tokenize invoices? As I mentioned, gold or certificates or things like that. There are things that don't need to be on the blockchain. Invoices is a classic example. Things don't need to be on the blockchain, but it makes a whole lot of sense that they are on the blockchain, because then there's an absolute immutable proof that this was sent at this date and it was paid at this date and so on and so forth. But you're not going to mint an invoice on Ethereum right now, because you're probably going to spend more on minting fees than you are on the cost of the invoice, right? So I think there are lots of things to be explored there. I think they're still a bit green. I think there still need time for those to mature. But I'm really excited to going in those directions. And we have our grant program in place at LAOS, and so builders who want to come along, we're happy to help support you to help create your dream as well, and help bring our dream to reality as well.
So I know the word grant makes a lot of people excited. So for everyone that's been listening and is very curious to learn more about LAOS and everything that's going on, how can they connect with you, and how can they learn more about LAOS?
Yeah, so the best thing they can do is follow us on X/Twitter, whatever it's called these days. We're at LAOS Network. You can follow me at Alun Thomas Evans, ALUN Thomas Evans. And then go to our website, right? So laosnetwork.io. There you can see our community, you can join our Discords, and you can find information about our grant program there as well. And yeah, get in touch. Love to hear from people.
Excellent. Well, this has been another amazing episode at NFT NYC. Really excited to spend time with Alun and learn more about LAOS, and everyone make sure you go check it out. So thanks again.
Thanks very much, Richard.
The views and opinions expressed on Edge of NFT reflect solely those views and opinions of the show hosts and its guests. Please make sure to do your own research. Our show is not financial advice. You understand that you are using any and all information available on or through this podcast at your own risk. Whenever making financial decisions, we recommend doing your own research and talking to your accountant for financial advice. From time to time, we may feature sponsored content on the show for which we receive value, and we may share links for which we receive a commission if you make a purchase through one of those links. Refer to our website, www.edgeofnft.com, for our full disclaimer, terms and conditions, and privacy policy.